The road to riches. Riches are of the mind. Let us suppose for a moment that a physician's diploma was stolen together with his office equipment. I'm sure you would agree that his wealth was in his mind. He could still carry on, diagnose disease, prescribe, operate, and lecture on materia medica. Only his symbols were stolen. He could always get additional supplies. His riches were in his mental capacity, knowledge to help others, and his ability to contribute to humanity in general. You will always be wealthy when you have an intense desire to contribute to the good of mankind. Your urge for service, that is, to give off your talents to the world, will always find a response in the heart of the universe. I knew a man in New York during the financial crisis of 1929 who lost everything he had, including his home and all his life savings. I met him after a lecture which I had given at one of the hotels in the city. This was what he said. I lost everything. I made $1 million in 4 years. I will make it again. All I have lost is a symbol. I can again attract the symbol of wealth in the same way as honey attracts flies. I followed the career of this man for several years. For several years to discover the key to his success. The key may seem strange to you, yet it is a very old one. The name he gave the key was change water into wine. He read this passage in the Bible and knew it was the answer to perfect health, happiness, peace of mind, and prosperity. Wine in the Bible always means the realization of your desires, urges, plans, dreams, propositions, etc. In other words, it is the things you wish to accomplish, achieve, and bring forth. Water in the Bible usually refers to your mind or consciousness. Water takes the shape of any vessel into which it is poured. Likewise, whatever you feel and believe as true will become manifest in your world. Thus, you are always changing water into wine. The Bible was written by illumined men. It teaches practical, everyday psychology and a way of life. One of the cardinal tenets of the Bible is that you determine, mold, fashion, and shape your own destiny through right thought, feeling, and beliefs. It teaches you that you can solve any problem, overcome any situation, and that you are born to succeed, to win, and to triumph. In order to discover the royal road to riches and receive the strength and security necessary to advance in life, you must cease viewing the Bible in the traditional way. The above man, who was in a financial crisis, used to say to himself frequently during the days when he was without funds, I can change water into wine. These words meant to him, I can exchange the poverty ideas in my mind for the realization of my present desires or needs, which are wealth and financial supply. His mental attitude, which is water, was, once I made a fortune honestly, I will make it again, which is wine. His regular affirmation consisted of, I attracted the symbol, which is money, once. I'm attracting it again. I know this and feel it is true, which is wine. This man went to work as a salesman for a chemical organization. Ideas for the better promotion of their products came to him. He passed them on to his organization. It was not long until he became vice president. Within 4 years, the company made him president. His constant mental attitude was, I can change water into wine. Look upon the story in John of changing water into wine in a figurative way and say to yourself, as the above mentioned, chemical salesman did, I can make the invisible ideas, urges, dreams, and desires of mine visible because I have discovered a simple, universal law of mind. The law he demonstrated is the law of action and reaction. It means your external world, body, circumstances, environment, and financial status are always a perfect reflection of your inner thinking, beliefs, feelings, and convictions. This being true, you can now change your inner pattern of thought by dwelling on the idea of success, wealth, and peace of mind. As you busy your mind with these latter concepts, these ideas will gradually seep into your mentality like seeds planted in the ground. As all seeds, that is thoughts and ideas, grow after their kind, so will your habitual thinking and feeling manifest in prosperity, success, and peace of mind. Wise thought, which is action, is followed by right action, which is reaction. You can acquire riches when you become aware of the fact that prayer is a marriage feast. The feast is a psychological one. You meditate, mentally eat off on your good or your desire until you become one with it. I will now cite a case history from my files relating how a young girl performed her first miracle in transforming water into wine. She operated a very beautiful hair salon. Her mother became ill and she had to devote considerable time at home, neglecting her business. During her absence, 2 of her assistants embezzled funds. She was forced into bankruptcy, losing her home and finding herself deeply in debt. She was unable to pay hospital bills for her mother, and she was now unemployed. I explained to this woman the magic formula of changing water into wine. Again, we made it clear to her that wine means answered prayer or the objectification of her ideal. She was quarreling with this outside world. She said, "Look at the facts. I've lost everything. It is a cruel world. I cannot pay my bills. I do not pray, for I have lost hope." She was so absorbed and engrossed in the material world that she was completely oblivious to the internal cause of her situation. As we talked, she began to understand that she had to resolve the quarrel in her mind. No matter what your desire or ideal is, as you read this book, you will also find some thought or idea in your mind opposed to it. For example, your desire may be for health. Perhaps there are several thoughts such as these in your mind simultaneously. I can't be healed. I've tried, but it is no use. It's getting worse. I don't know enough about spiritual mind healing. As you study yourself, don't you have a tug of war in your mind? Like this girl, you find environment and external affairs challenging your desire of expression, wealth, and peace of mind. True prayer is a mental marriage feast, and it teaches us all how to resolve the mental conflict. In prayer, you write what you believe in your own mind. Emerson said, "A man is what he thinks all day long." By your habitual thinking, you make your own mental laws of belief. By repeating a certain train of thought, you establish definite opinions and beliefs in the deeper mind called the subconscious. Then such mental acceptances, beliefs, and opinions direct and control all the outer actions. To understand this and begin to apply it is the first step in changing water into wine, or changing lack and limitation into abundance and opulence. The man who is unaware of his own inner spiritual powers is, therefore, subject to race beliefs, lack, and limitation. Open your Bible now and perform your first miracle as this beauty operator did. You can do it. If you merely read the Bible as a historical event, you will miss the spiritual, mental, scientific view of the laws of mind with which we are concerned in this book. Let us take this passage. "And the third day there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there." Galilee means your mind or consciousness. Cana means your desire. The marriage is purely mental or the subjective embodiment of your desire. This whole beautiful drama of prayer is a psychological one in which all the characters are mental states feelings, and ideas within you. One of the meanings of Jesus is illumined reason. The mother of Jesus means the feelings, moods, or emotions which possess us. And both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. Your disciples are your inner powers and faculties enabling you to realize your desires. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus said unto him, "They have no wine." Wine, as we have started, represents the answered prayer or the manifestation of your desire and ideals in life. You can now see this as an everyday drama taking place in your own life. When you wish to accomplish something as this girl did, namely finding work, supply, and a way out of your problem, suggestions of lack come to you, such as, "There is no hope. All is lost. I can't accomplish it. It is hopeless." This is the voice from the outside world saying to you, "They have no wine." Or, "Look at the facts." This is your feeling of lack, limitation, or bondage speaking. How do you meet the challenge of circumstances and conditions? By now you're getting acquainted with the laws of mind, which are as follows. As I think and feel inside, so is my outside world. That is, my body, finances, environment, social position, and all phases of my external relationship to the world and man. Your internal, mental movements and imagery govern, control, and direct the external plane in your life. The Bible says, "As he thinketh in his heart, so is he." The heart is a Chaldean word meaning the subconscious mind. In other words, your thought must reach subjective levels by engaging the power of your subliminal self. Thought and feeling are your destiny. Thought charged with feeling and interest is always subjectified and becomes manifest in your world. Prayer is a marriage of thought and feeling, or your idea and emotion. This is what the marriage feast relates. Any idea or desire of the mind felt as true comes to pass, whether it is good, bad, or indifferent. Knowing the law now that what you imagine and feel in your mind, you will express, manifest, or experience in the outside enables you to begin to discipline your mind. When the suggestion of lack, fear, doubt, or despair, "They have no wine," come to your mind, immediately reject it mentally by focusing your attention at once on the answered prayer or the fulfillment of your desire. The statement given in the Bible from John 2, "Mine hour is not yet to come," and "Woman, what I have to do with thee," are figurative, idiomatic, Oriental expression. As we paraphrase this quotation, woman means the negative feeling that you indulge in. These negative suggestions have no power or reality because there is nothing to back them up. A suggestion of lack has no power. The power is resident in your own thought and feeling. What does God mean to you? God is the name given to the one spiritual power. God is the one invisible source from which all things flow. When your thoughts are constructive and harmonious, the spiritual power being responsive to your thought flows as harmony, health, and abundance. Practice the wonderful discipline of completely rejecting every thought of lack by immediately recognizing the availability of the spiritual power and its response to your constructive thoughts and imagery. Then you will be practicing the truth found in these words. "Woman, what I have to do with thee?" We read, "Mine hour is not yet come." This means that while you have not reached a conviction or positive state of mind, you know you are on the way mentally because you are engaging your mind on the positive ideals, goals, and objectives in life. Whatever the mind dwells upon, it multiplies, magnifies, and causes it to grow until finally the mind becomes qualified with the new state of consciousness. You are then conditioned positively, whereas before you were conditioned negatively. The spiritual man in prayer moves from the mood of lack to the mood of confidence, peace, and trust in the spiritual power within himself. Since his trust and faith are in spiritual power, his mother, moods and feelings, registers a feeling of triumph or victory. This will bring about the solution or the answer to your prayer. The water pots in the story from the Bible refer to the mental cycles that man goes through in order to bring about the subjective realization of his desire. The length of time may be a moment, hour, week, or month, depending on the faith and state of consciousness of the student. In prayer, we must cleanse our mind of false beliefs, fear, doubt, and anxiety by becoming completely detached from the evidence of senses and the external world. In the peacefulness and quietude of your mind, wherein you have stilled the wheels of your mind, meditate on the joy of the answered prayer until that inner certitude comes, whereby you know that you know. When you have succeeded in being one with your desire, you have succeeded in the mental marriage of the union of your feeling with your idea. I'm sure you wish to be married, one with to health, harmony, success, and achievement in your mind at this moment. Every time you pray, you are trying to perform the marriage feast of Cana, that is realization of your desire or ideas. You want to be mentally identified with the concept of peace, success, well-being, and perfect health. They filled them up to the brim. The 6 water pots represent your own mind in the spiritual and mental creative act. You must fill your mind to the brim, meaning you must become filled full of the feeling of being what you long to be. When you succeed in filling your mind with the ideal you wish to accomplish or express, you are full to the brim. Then you cease praying about it, for you feel its reality in your mind. You know it is a finished state of consciousness. You are at peace about it. And he saith unto them, Draw out now, and bear unto the governor of the feast. Whatever is impregnated in our subconscious mind is always objectified on the screen of space. Consequently, when we enter a state of conviction that our prayer is answered, we have given the command, Bear unto the governor of the feast. You are always governing your mental feast. During the day, thousands of thoughts, suggestions, opinions, sights, and sounds reach your eyes and ears. You can reject them as unfit for mental consumption or entertain them as you choose. Your conscious, reasoning, intellectual mind is the governor of the feast. When you consciously choose to entertain, meditate, feast upon, and imagine your heart's desire as true, it becomes a living embodiment and a part of your mentality, so that deeper self gives birth or expression to it. In other words, what is impressed subjectively is expressed objectively. Your senses or conscious mind sees the objection of your good. When the conscious mind becomes aware of water made into wine, it becomes aware of the answered prayer. Water might be called also the invisible, formless, spiritual power, unconditioned consciousness. Wine is conditioned consciousness, or the mind giving birth to its beliefs and convictions. The servants which draw the water for you represent the mood of peace, confidence, and faith. According to your faith or feeling, your good is attracted or drawn to you. Imbibe, cherish, fall in love with these spiritual principles which are discussed in this book. In the first recorded miracle of Jesus, you are told that prayer is a marriage feast, or the mind uniting with its desire. Love is the fulfilling of the law. Love is really an emotional attachment, a sense of oneness with your good. You must be true to that which you love. You must be loyal to your purpose or to your ideal. We are not being true to the one we love when we are flirting or mentally entertaining other marriages with fear, doubt, worry, anxiety, or false beliefs. Love is a state of oneness, a state of fulfillment. Refer to the book by the author, Love is Freedom. When this simple drama was explained to the beauty operator mentioned above, she became rich mentally. She understood this drama and she put it into practice in her life. This is how she prayed. She knew that the water, which is her own mind, would flow and fill up all the empty vessels in response to her new way of thinking and feeling. At night, this client became very quiet and still, relaxed her body, and began to use constructive imagery. The steps she used are as follows. First step. She began to imagine the local bank manager was congratulating her on her wonderful deposits in the bank. She kept imagining that for about 5 minutes. The second step. In her imagination, she heard her mother saying to her, "I'm so happy about your wonderful new position." She continued to hear her say this in a happy, joyous way for about 3 to 5 minutes. The third step. Vividly, she imagined the writer was in front of her performing her marriage ceremony. This woman heard me saying as the officiating minister, "I now pronounce you man and wife." Completing this routine, she went off to sleep feeling filled full, that is, sensing and feeling within herself the joy of the answered prayer. Nothing happened for 3 weeks. In fact, things got much worse. But she persevered, refusing to take no for her answer. She knew that in order to grow spiritually, she too had to perform her first miracle by changing her fear to faith, her mood of lack to a mood of opulence and prosperity, by changing consciousness, which is water, into the conditions, circumstances, and experiences she wished to express. Consciousness, awareness, beingness, principle, spirit, or whatever name you give it. It is the cause of all. It is the only presence and power. The spiritual power or spirit within us is the cause and substance of all things. All things, birds, trees, stars, sun, moon, earth, gold, silver, and platinum are its manifestations. It is the cause and substance of all things. There is none else. Understanding this, she knew that water, which is consciousness, could become supply in the form of money, true place, or true expression for herself, health for her mother, as well as companionship and fullness of life. She saw this simple yet profound truth in the twinkling of an eye and said to me, "I accept my good." She knew that nothing is hidden from us. All of God is within us, waiting for our discovery and inquiry. In less than a month, this young girl got married. The writer performed the ceremony. I pronounced the words she heard me say over and over again in her meditative, relaxed state, "I now pronounce you man and wife." Her husband gave her a check for $24,000 as a wedding present, as well as a trip around the world. Her new expression as a beauty operator was to beautify her home and garden and make the desert of her mind rejoice and blossom as the rose. She changed water into wine. Water on her consciousness became charged or conditioned by her constant, true, happy imagery. These images, when sustained regularly, systematically, and with faith in the developing powers of the deeper mind, will come out of the darkness, which is subconscious mind, into light, which is objectified on the screen of space. There is one important rule. Do not expose this newly developed film to the shattering light of fear, doubt, despondency, and worry. Whenever worry or fear knocks at your door, immediately turn to the picture you developed in your mind and say to yourself, "A beautiful picture is being developed now in the dark house of my mind." Mentally pour on that picture your feeling of joy, faith, and understanding. You know you have operated a psychological, spiritual law. For what is impressed shall be expressed. It is wonderful. The following is a sure, certain way for developing and manifesting all the material riches and supply you need all the days of your life. If you apply this formula sincerely and honestly, you should be amply rewarded on the external plane. I will illustrate this by telling you a man who came to see me in London in desperate financial straits. He was a member of the Church of England and had studied the working of the subconscious mind to some extent. I told him to say frequently during the day, "God is the source of my supply, and all my needs are met at every moment of time and point of space." Think also of all the animal life in this world and in all the galaxies of space which are now being taken care of by an infinite intelligence. Notice how nature is lavish, extravagant, and bountiful. Think of the fish of the sea, which are all being sustained, as well as the birds of the air. He began to realize that since he was born, he had been taken care of, fed by his mother, clothed by his father, and watched over by tender, loving parents. This man got a job and was paid in a wonderful way. He reasoned that it was illogical to assume that the principle of life, which gave him life and always took care of him, would suddenly cease to respond to him. He realized that he had cut off his own supply by resenting his employer, self-condemnation, criticism of himself, and by his own sense of unworthiness. He had psychologically served the God who joined him to the infinite source of all things. The indwelling spirit or life principle, called by some consciousness or awareness. Man is not fed like the birds. He must consciously commune with the indwelling power and presence, and receiving guidance, strength, vitality, and all things necessary for the fulfillment of his needs. This is the formula which he used to change water into the wine of abundance and financial success. He realized God, or the spiritual power within him, was the cause of all. Furthermore, he realized that if he could sell himself the idea that wealth was his by divine right, he would manifest abundance of supply. The affirmation he used was, "God is the source of my supply. All my financial and other needs are met at every moment of time and point of space. There is always a divine surplus." This simple statement, repeated frequently, knowingly, and intelligently conditioned his mind to a prosperity consciousness. All he had to do was to sell himself this positive idea in the same way a good salesman has to sell himself on the merits of his product. Such a person is convinced of the integrity of his company, the high quality of the product, the good service which it will give the customer, and the fact that the price is right, etc. I told him whenever negative thoughts came to his mind, which would happen, not to fight them, quarrel with them in any way, but simply go back to the spiritual, mental formula and repeat it quietly and lovingly to himself. Negative thoughts came to him in avalanches at times in the form of a flood of negativity. Each time he met them with the positive, firm, loyal conviction, "God supplies all my needs. There is a divine surplus in my life," he said as he drove his car and went through his day's routine. that a host of sundry, miscellaneous, negative concepts crowded his mind from time to time, such as, "There is no hope. You are broke." Each time such negative thoughts came, he refused their mental admission by turning to the eternal source of wealth, health, and all things which he knew to be his own spiritual awareness. Definitely and positively he claimed, "God is the source of my supply, and that supply is mine now." Or, "There is a divine solution. God's wealth is my wealth." And other affirmative, positive statements which charged his mind with hope, faith, expectancy, and ultimately a conviction in an ever-flowing fountain of riches, supplying all his needs copiously, joyously, and endlessly. The negative flood of thoughts came to him as often as 50 times in an hour. Each time he refused to open the door of his mind to these gangsters, assassins, and thieves, which he knew would only rob him of peace, wealth, success, and all good things. Instead, he opened the door of his mind to the idea of God's eternal life principle of supply flowing through him as wealth, health, energy, power, and all things necessary to lead a full and happy life here. As he continued to do this, the second day, not so many thieves knocked at his door. The third day, the flow of negative visitors was less. The fourth day, they came intermittently, hoping for admission, but receiving the same mental response. "No entrance. I accept only thoughts and concepts which activate, heal, bless, and inspire my mind." He reconditioned his consciousness or mind to a wealth consciousness. "The prince of this world cometh and hath nothing in me." This conveys to your mind the negative thoughts such as fear, lack, worry, anxiety came, but they received no response from his mind. He was now immune, God intoxicated, and seized by a divine faith in an ever-expanding consciousness of abundance and financial supply. This man did not lose anything. Neither did he go into bankruptcy. He was given extended credit. His business improved. New doors opened up, and he prospered. Remember, always in the prayer process, you must be loyal to your ideal, purpose, and objective. Many people fail to realize wealth and financial success because they pray two ways. They affirm God is their supply and that they are divinely prospered. But few minutes later, they deny they are good by saying, "I can't pay this bill. I can't afford this, that, or the other things." Or they say to themselves, "A jinx is following me. I can't ever make ends meet. I never have enough to go around." All such statements are highly destructive and neutralize your positive prayers. This is what is called praying two ways. You must be faithful to your plan or your goal. You must be true to your knowledge of the spiritual power. Cease making negative marriages, that is, uniting with negative thoughts, fears, and worries. Prayer is like a captain directing the course of his ship. You must have a destination. You must know where you are going. The captain of the ship, knowing the laws of navigation, regulates his course accordingly. If the ship is turned from its course by storms or unruly waves, he calmly redirects it along its true course. You are the captain on the bridge, and you are giving the orders in the way of thoughts, feelings, opinions, beliefs, moods, and mental tones. Keep your eye on the beam. You go where your vision is. Cease, therefore, looking at all the obstacles, delays, and impediments that would cause you to go off your course. Be definite and positive. Decide where you're going. Know that your mental attitude is the ship which will take you from the mood of lack and limitation to the mood and feeling of opulence, and to the belief in the inevitable law of God working for you. Quimbley, who was a doctor, a wonderful student and teacher of the mental and spiritual laws of mind, said, "Man acts as he is acted upon." What moves you now? What is it that determines your response to life? The answer is as follows. Your ideas, beliefs, and opinions activate your mind and condition you to the point that you become, as Quimbley stated, an expression of your beliefs. This illustrates the truth of Quimbley's statement, "Man is belief expressed." Another popular statement of Quimbley's was, "Our minds mingle like atmospheres, and each person has his identity in that atmosphere." When you were a child, you were subject to the moods, feelings, beliefs, and the general mental atmosphere of the home. The fears, anxieties, superstitions, as well as the religious faith and convictions of the parents were impressed on your mind. Let us say the child had been brought up in a poverty-stricken home, in which there was never enough to go around. Financially speaking, he heard constantly the complaint of lack and limitation. You could say, like the soldier in his conditioned reflex therapy, that the child was conditioned to poverty. The young man may have a poverty complex based on his early experiences, training, and beliefs, but he can rise above any situation and become free. This is done through the power of prayer. I knew a young boy aged 17 who was born in a place called Hell's Kitchen in New York. I listened to some lectures I was giving in Steinway Hall, New York at that time. This boy realized that he had been the victim of negative, destructive thinking, and if he did not redirect his mind along constructive channels, the world mind with its fears, failures, hates, and jealousies would move in and control him. Man acts as he is acted upon. It stands to reason, as Quimbley knew, that if man will not take charge of his own house, which is mind, the propaganda, false beliefs, fears, and worries of the phenomenalistic world will act as a hypnotic spell over him. We are immersed in the race mind, which believes in sickness, death, misfortune, accident, failures, disease, and diverse disasters. Follow the biblical injunction. Come out from among them and be separate. Identify yourself mentally and emotionally with the eternal verities which have stood the test of time. This young man decided to think and plan for himself. He decided to take the royal road to riches by accepting God's abundance here and now, and to fill his mind with spiritual concepts and perceptions. He knew as he did this, he would automatically crowd out of his mind all negative patterns. He adopted a simple process called scientific imagination. He had a wonderful voice, but it was not cultivated or developed. I told him the image he gave attention to in his mind would be developed in his deeper mind and come to pass. He understood this to be a law of mind, a law of action and reaction. That is, the response of the deeper mind to the mental picture held in the conscious mind. This young man would sit down quietly in his room at home, relax his whole body, and vividly imagine himself singing before a microphone. He would actually reach out for the feel of the instrument. He would hear me congratulate him on his wonderful contract and tell him how magnificent his voice was. By giving his attention and devotion to this mental image regularly and systematically, a deep impression was made on his subconscious mind. A short time elapsed, and an Italian voice instructor in New York gave him free lessons several times a week because he saw his possibilities. He got a contract which sent him abroad to sing in the salons of Europe, Asia, South Africa, and other places. His financial worries were over, for he also received a wonderful salary. His hidden talents and ability to release them were his real riches. These talents and powers within all of us are God-given. Let us release them. Did you ever say to yourself, how can I be more useful to my fellow creature? How can I contribute more to humanity? A minister friend of mine told me that in his early days, he and his church suffered financially. His technique or process was this simple prayer which worked wonders for him. God reveals to me a better way to present the truths of God to my fellow creature. Money poured in. The mortgage was paid in a few years, and he has never worried about money since. As you read this chapter, you have now learned that the inner feelings, moods, and beliefs of man always control and govern his external world. The inner movements of the mind control the outer movements. To change the outside, you must change the inside. As in heaven, so on earth. Or as in my mind or consciousness, so is it in my body, circumstances, and environment. The Bible says, there is nothing hidden that shall not be revealed. For example, if you are sick, you are revealing a mental and emotional pattern which is the cause. If you are upset, or if you receive tragic news, notice how you reveal it in your face, eyes, gestures, tonal qualities, also in your gait and posture. As a matter of fact, your whole body reveals your inner distress. You could, of course, through mental discipline and prayer, remain absolutely poised, serene, and calm, refusing to betray your hidden feelings or mental states. You could order the muscles of your body to relax, be quiet, and be still. They would have to obey you. Your eyes, face, and lips would not betray any sign of grief, anger, or despondency. On the other hand, with a little discipline, through prayer and meditation, you could reverse the entire picture. Even though you had received disturbing news, regardless of its grave nature, you could show and exhibit joy, peace, relaxation, and a vibrant, buoyant nature. No one would ever know that you were the recipient of so-called bad news. Regardless of what kind of news you received today, you could go to the mirror, look at your face, lips, eyes, and your gestures as you tell yourself, and imagine you have heard the news of having received a vast fortune. Dramatize it, feel it, thrill to it, and notice how your whole body responds to the inner thrill. You can reverse any situation through prayer. Busy your mind with the concepts of peace, success, wealth, and happiness. Identify yourself with these ideas mentally, emotionally, and pictorially. Get a picture of yourself as you want to be. Retain that image. Sustain it with joy, faith, and expectancy. Finally, you will succeed in experiencing its manifestation. I say to people who consult me regarding financial lack to marry wealth. Some see the point, others do not. As all Bible students know, your wife is what you are mentally joined to, united with, or at one with. In other words, what you conceive and believe, you give it conception. If you believe the world is cold, cruel, and harsh, that it is a dog-eat-dog way of life, that is your concept. You are married to it, and you will have children or issue by that marriage. The children from such a mental marriage or belief will be your experiences, conditions, and circumstances together with all other events in your life. All your experiences and reactions to life will be the image and likeness of the ideas which fathered them. Look at the many wives the average man is living with, such as fear, doubt, anxiety, criticism, jealousy, and anger. These play havoc with his mind. Marry wealth by claiming, feeling, and believing, God supplies all my needs according to His riches in glory. Or take the following statement and repeat it over and over again, knowingly, until your consciousness is conditioned by it, or it becomes a part of your meditation. I am divinely expressed, and I have a wonderful income. Do not say this in a parrot-like fashion, but know that your train of thought is being engraved in your deeper mind, and it becomes a conditioned state of consciousness. Let the phrase become meaningful to you. Pour life, love, and feeling on it, making it alive. One of my class students recently opened a restaurant. He phoned me saying that he got married to a restaurant. He meant that he had made up his mind to be very successful, diligent, and persevering, and to see that his business prospered. This man's wife was his belief in accomplishment of his desire or wish. Identify yourself with your aim in life and cease mental marriages with criticism, self-condemnation, anger, fear, and worry. Give attention to your chosen ideal, being full of faith and confidence in the inevitable law of prosperity and success. You will accomplish nothing by loving your ideal 1 minute and denying it in the next minute. This is like mixing acid and an alkali, for you will get an inert substance. In going along the royal road to riches, you must be faithful to your chosen ideal, that is, your wife. We find illustrations in the Bible relating to these same truths. For instance, Eve came out of Adam's rib. Your rib is your concept, desire, idea, plan, goal, or aim in life. Eve means the emotion, feeling nature, or the inner tone. In other words, you must mother the idea. The idea must be mothered, loved, and felt as true in order to manifest your aim in life. The idea is the father. The emotion is the mother. This is the marriage feast which is always taking place in your mind. Ouspensky spoke of the third element which entered in or was formed following the union of your desire and feeling. He called it the neutral element. We may call it peace, for God is peace. The Bible says, "And the government shall be on his shoulders." In other words, let divine wisdom be your guide. Let the subjective wisdom within you lead, guide, and govern you in all your ways. Turn over your request to this indwelling presence, knowing in your heart and soul that it will dissipate the anxiety, heal the wound, and restore your soul to equanimity and tranquility. Open your mind and heart and say, God is my pilot. He leads me. He prospers me. He is my counselor. Let your prayer be night and morning. I am channel through which God's riches flow ceaselessly, copiously, and freely. Write that prayer in your heart. Inscribe it in your mind. Keep on the beam of God's glory. The man who does not know the inner workings of his own mind is full of burdens, anxieties, and worries, for he has not learned how to cast his burden on the indwelling presence and go free. The Zen monk was asked by his disciple, "What is truth?" He replied in a symbolic way by taking the bag off his back and placing it on the ground. The disciple then asked him, "Master, how does it work?" The Zen monk, still silent, placed the bag on his back and walked on down the road, singing to himself. The bag is your burden or your problem. You cast it on the subjective wisdom which knows all and has the know-how of accomplishment. It knows only the answer. Placing the bag again on his back means, though I still have the problem, I now have mental rest and relief from the burden, because I have invoked the divine wisdom on my behalf. Therefore, I sing the song of triumph, knowing that the answer to my prayer is on the way. And I sing for the joy that is set before me. It is wonderful. Every man at the beginning doth set forth good wine, and when men have well drunk, then that which is worse, but thou hast kept the good wine until now. This is true of every man when he first enters a knowledge of the laws of mind. He sets out with high spirits and ambitions. He is the new broom which sweeps clean, and he is full of good intentions. Oftentimes he forgets the source of power. He does not remain faithful to the principle within him, which is scientific and effectual, that would lift him out of his negative experiences and set him on the high road to freedom and peace of mind. He begins to indulge mentally and emotionally with ideas and thoughts extraneous to his announced aim and goal. In other words, he is not faithful to his ideal or wife. Know that the subjective or deeper self within you will accept your request, and being the great fabricator, it will bring it to pass in its own way. All you do is release your request with faith and confidence. In the same way, you would cast a seed on the ground or mail a letter to a friend, knowing the answer would come. Did you ever go between two great rocks and listen to the echo of your voice? This is the way the life principle within you answers. You will hear the echo of your own voice. Your voice is your inner, mental movement of the mind, your inner, psychological journey where you feasted mentally on an idea until you were full. Then you rested. Knowing this law and how to use it, be sure you never become drunk with power, arrogance, pride, or conceit. Use the law to bless, heal, inspire, and lift up others as well as yourself. Man misuses the law by selfishly taking advantage of his fellow man. If you do, you hurt and attract loss to yourself. Power, security, and riches are not to be obtained externally. They come from the treasure house of eternity within. We should realize that the good wine is always present, for God is the eternal now. Regardless of present circumstances, you can prove your good is ever present by detaching yourself mentally from the problem, going on the high watch, and go about your Father's business. To go on the high watch is to envision your good, to dwell on the new concept of yourself, to become married to it, and sustain the happy mood by remaining faithful, full of faith every step of the way, knowing that the wine of joy, the answered prayer, is on the way. Now is the day of salvation. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Thou hast kept the good wine until now. You can, this moment, travel psychologically in your mind and enter mentally through divine imagination into any desired state. The wealth, health, or invention you wish to introduce are all visible first. Everything comes out of the invisible. You must subjectively possess riches before you objectively possess wealth. The feeling of wealth produces wealth, for wealth is a state of consciousness. A state of consciousness is how you think, feel, believe, and what you mentally give consent to. A teacher in California receiving over $5,000 or $6,000 a year looked in a window at a beautiful ermine coat that was priced at $8,000. She said it would take me years to save that amount of money. I could never afford it. Oh, how I want it. She listened to our lectures on Sunday mornings. By ceasing to marry these negative concepts, she learned that she could have a coat, car, or anything she wished without hurting anybody on the face of the earth. I told her to imagine she had the coat on, to feel its beautiful fur, and to get the feel of it on her. She began to use the power of her imagination prior to sleep at night. She put the imaginary coat on her, fondled it, caressed it, like a child does with her doll. She continued to do this and finally felt the thrill of it all. She went to sleep every night wearing this imaginary coat and being so happy in possessing it. 3 months went by and nothing happened. She was about to waver, but she reminded herself that it is the sustained mood which demonstrates, "He who perseveres to the end shall be saved." The solution will come to the person who does not waver, but always goes about with the perfume of his presence with him. The answer comes to the man who walks in the light that it is done. You are always using the perfume of his presence when you sustain the happy, joyous mood of expectancy, knowing your good is on the way. You saw it on the unseen, and you know you will see it in the seen. The sequel to the teacher's drama of the mind is interesting. One Sunday morning after our lecture, a man accidentally stepped on her toe, apologizes profusely, asked her where she lived, and offered to drive her home. She accepted gladly. Shortly after he proposed marriage, gave her a beautiful diamond ring, and said to her, "I saw the most wonderful coat. You would simply look radiant wearing it." It was the coat she admired 3 months previously. The salesman said over 100 wealthy women looked at the coat, admired it immensely, but for some reason, always selected another garment. Through your capacity to choose, imagine the reality of what you have selected. And through faith and perseverance, you can realize your goal in life. All the riches of heaven are here now, within you, waiting to be released. Peace, joy, love, guidance, inspiration, goodwill, and abundance all exist now. All that is necessary in order to express God's riches is for you to leave the present now. That is your limitation. Enter into the mental vision or picture, and in happy, joyous mood become one with your ideal. Having seen and felt your good in moments of high exaltation, you know that in a little while you shall see your ideal objectively as you walk through time and space. As within, so without. As above, so below. As in heaven, so on earth. In other words, you will see your beliefs expressed. Man is belief expressed. Any fact facing us is not as important as our attitude toward it, for that determines our success or failure. By Norman Vincent Peale. The first step to developing a positive attitude is to become aware of the true nature of your current attitude. This isn't always as easy as it sounds, but how you react to various situations can tell a great deal about your basic, ongoing attitude. To succeed in any of your endeavors, you must approach them with a positive or affirmative attitude. Your positive attitude quotient or PAQ. To determine your PAQ, positive attitude quotient, use the following questions to decide how frequently you exhibit that particular behavior. Mark 1 if it's never, 2 if it's seldom, 3 if it's sometimes, 4 if it's usually, and 5 if it's almost always. Remember, this is to help determine your positive attitude quotient. So please be honest with yourself. I can quickly recover from failure. I have personal goals I'm working on. I keep track of my progress on goals and make the changes needed. I make up my mind slowly whether or not I like new people I meet. I get a lot of good ideas from other people. I can find what I need to know without much help. I don't have to be reminded to do what I agree to do. I can quickly detect people who are pessimists. I enjoy listening to people's explanations even if I don't like them personally. I am patient with people who disagree with me. Total. Let's discuss how you marked each question and the implications. If you scored 40 plus, you have a strong positive attitude. This will provide credibility as a leader and compatibility as a co-worker. If you scored 30 to 40 plus, you have a normal positive attitude. It will serve you well and be a favorable influence on others. If you scored 20 to 30 plus, your attitude is unpredictable and will cause confusion and uncertainty in your relationships at home and at work. If you scored under 20, you have a negative attitude which will inhibit confidence in your relationships and work. Using the PAQ scale will help you decide which of these areas to work on to increase your positive attitude and influence. Assess your attitude toward yourself. If you are physically well, the quality of your life will depend mostly on your attitude. It's important, therefore, to consider that attitude reflects both inwardly on yourself and outwardly to other people. Ask yourself these questions to determine if you usually take a positive attitude toward yourself. Answer yes or no or undecided. 1. Are you a learner or rejecter? Are you usually willing to recognize that no one has all the answers and continue trying? 2. Do you do your best on the job? Evidence of this would be if you tend to suggest better ways of doing things. 3. Do you demonstrate enthusiasm in most of what you say and do? What does the record say about that? What will your friends tell you? 4. Are you willing to grow? Do you think it's your responsibility to prepare yourself for advancement or wait for someone else to tell you what to do? 5. Do you welcome changes? Are you the kind of person who experiments, who tries things, who is generally open to suggestions? 6. And last, but certainly not least, do you cultivate a sense of humor? Do you take yourself more seriously than anyone else? Do you get some joy out of what you're doing at work? Is it fun for you? Attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. By Winston Churchill. Evaluate your attitude toward other people. Are you taking a consistently positive attitude toward other people? Here are some ways you can check this out. Are you sincerely interested? Do you talk about their needs and their problems? Sincerity can't be faked. Do you look at others' point of view? How they feel, why they feel that way, why they think and act as they do? Do you study them? Are you a good listener? Are you able to cooperate to achieve common goals? Are you a good team player? Attitude reflects positively and negatively. Attitude affects every aspect of your life and your job. A good example is safety in the workplace. A negative attitude can lead to carelessness. It doesn't really matter. Ignorance. I didn't know that would explode. Fatalism. If it happens, it happens. Cynicism. All these films and posters are just kid stuff. Laziness. It's too much trouble to wear that hard hat or eye guard or those protective shoes. Recklessness. Some people think that danger is the spice of life and they like to live on the edge. Overconfidence. I haven't been hurt for 20 years. It's not liable to happen now. On the other hand, A positive attitude would lead to planning ahead for those who would say, "It may take a little longer, but I'd rather do it that way and be safe." It would lead to an outlook of, "I want to know what your goals are, because I want us both to improve." It will lead to an attitude of appreciation, where it is easy to say, "Thanks for that suggestion." It would lead to more thoroughness. "I want to do it right the first time, so nobody gets hurt here." It would lead to conscientiousness. "I want to fix this now, so I don't forget, and it might be a hazard to someone." It would lead to more alertness. "If I concentrate and I'm careful now, it'll be safer for everybody concerned." Success requires more than talent. While talent and knowledge are essential, the key which unlocks them both is your state of mind. It involves dependability. Pride becomes a basic satisfaction that can be yours in any job. It requires respect for the right of others, evidenced by giving credit for what they do. It requires consideration when you can help them do their job more efficiently. And it requires the kind of enthusiasm that fuels progress. Even a smile may evidence encouragement that will be picked up and fed back to you. Recognize that the enemy is usually within, and the first step in analyzing attitude is to start with yourself. All human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes. By Andrew Carnegie. Think for yourself. Robert Louis Stevenson gave us this advice in his Creed for Positive Living. It's been around a long time, but is still very valid. Make up your mind to be positive. Learn to find pleasure in simple things. Make the best of your circumstances. No one has everything, and everyone has something of sorrow intermingled with the gladness in their life. The trick is to make the laughter outweigh the tears. Don't try to avoid all risks. Don't think that somehow you should be protected from misfortunes that befall others. That's not liable to happen, and you will be disappointed when you find out that it doesn't. The future is always uncertain. You can't please everybody. Don't let criticism overly influence you. Don't let your neighbors or conventional wisdom make decisions for you. Be yourself. It will work out better in the long run. Do the things that you enjoy doing. Don't borrow trouble. Imaginary things are often harder to bear than reality. Hate poisons the soul, said Stevenson. So don't envy what other people have. Don't hold grudges. Avoid people who make you unhappy. Have many interests. If you can't travel, read about new places. Don't regret where you haven't been or what you haven't done. Don't hold postmortems. Don't spend your life brooding over sorrows and mistakes. Don't be the one who never gets over things. Stop and think about the people in your life who live in the past or are holding grudges. Consider their attitude, whether it's positive or negative, and whether you want to be like them. Do what you can do for those less fortunate than yourself. And above all, keep busy at something or several things. A busy person never has time to be unhappy. When you get to a point where your present situation is leading to a lot of self-doubt, remember, life is a journey, not a destination. We are always in the process of arriving at conclusions. That's because we are always struggling with change, or fear, or failure, or even success. Yes, success can involve problems too, and we will discuss some. Adjustments are always needed. First-time experiences are often risky. You must adjust to new circumstances. You must have to adapt to different people. You have to decide how much emotion you should show, particularly at work. You can worry about whether you are in a rut, and if so, how to get out of it. To cope with new experiences, a positive self-image and a positive attitude are invaluable. There is powerful evidence of how self-image influences results. The way you see yourself affects your attitude, which in turn affects your actions, which determines your accomplishments. The key then for gaining confidence, earning respect, and effecting positive change with better results lies in developing and maintaining a good self-image. The sad news is that most of us often fall short because we don't do the daily maintenance necessary. The underlying problem is that we are drifting and reacting rather than initiating action. Think of it as planting a crop. If we want a better crop of self-worth, confidence, opportunities, we must change and gain control of what can be done. Not worry about what cannot be done. If you're a farmer, you can't worry about the weather constantly. We deserve more than to waste time and energy blaming others for bad breaks, indulging in self-pity, seeking revenge, or focusing on past mistakes. We've got to understand our doubts and fears. But change doesn't simply come from analysis. It only comes from action. It's never easy and requires determination and discipline. Change the way you feel about yourself. You can change the way you feel about yourself. These suggestions will help. 1. List your personal liabilities, past mistakes, failures, and embarrassments. Burn it. Watch it turn to ashes and say aloud, "That's the last time I will let you get me down. I have more important things to do." Your actions always reinforce your dominant thoughts. Learn from those past bloopers and get rid of them. Get off your own back. There are enough monkeys in this world waiting to jump on it for you. 2. List your personal assets, competencies, and achievements. A realistic resume is a good start. Ask your friend for help. Read it aloud 3 times a day for 3 weeks, and then read it as soon as you get up each day thereafter. Your actions reinforce your dominant thoughts. If you have ever felt valuable, worthy, or good in the past, you can feel that way again. You spent many years allowing others to program you. Now it's up to you. 3. Read or listen to something motivational or inspirational every day. Positive imagery requires positive examples. You also need other people's experiences. Their research, techniques, and results can cut years off your learning curve and save you from painful trial and error. 4. Write specific goals. This triggers your inborn, automatic goal-seeking mechanism. Even while you sleep, your subconscious will help you overcome roadblocks, obstacles, and defeats. As you achieve your goals, the written proof supports you as a worthy, achieving person and plants good self-image seeds. 5. Take responsibility for your emotional environment. It's hard to soar like an eagle when you are surrounded by a bunch of turkeys. The law of emotional gravity is strong. You become like those with whom you associate. These beginning self-image building steps may seem simplistic, but they are based on sound research and results. They are the foundation for a strong, what I call internal net worth. When you believe in and support your strengths and values and accept responsibility for being a deserving, creating achiever, then and only then have you moved toward being a positive influence on other people. Pull yourself up. Those who keep trying can renew themselves. Expecting lasting success to come quickly is foolish. Most often, it involves starting at the bottom of the ladder and working your way up rung by rung. The case of baseball great Eddie Mathews is a good example. After graduating from high school in Santa Barbara, California, 17 years old Matthew received 2 offers to play professional baseball. One came from the Brooklyn Dodgers and included a $60,000 signing bonus. The other came from the Boston Braves and carried a $4,000 bonus. Matthews weighed the 2 options. If he went with the Dodgers, he would get more money and immediately be on the roster of a big league team. If he went with the Braves, he would get less money and be expected to start out on one of their minor league teams. Matthews realized that he had a great deal to learn. He felt that starting in the minor leagues would be the best way to get experience and accepted the Braves contract. It was a wise decision. In the minors, Matthews played with and against many former major league stars whose careers were winding down. By hanging around with them on and off the field, he learned the key ingredients to success. Play hard every day, be humble, and do whatever it takes to win. During his career, Matthews hit 512 home runs, tying Ernie Banks for 13th on all-time career home run list. He hit 30 or more home runs in straight seasons, a record. 40 or more home runs 4 times, played in 10 All-Star games, and was inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 1978. Research verifies Matthews' decision. A recent study at the University of Minnesota concluded that young people who have part-time jobs in their teens have an advantage later in life. The reasons can be traced to lessons they learned involving time, budgeting, money management, interpersonal skills, and handling work stress. Lesson: those who learn early have more staying power than those who must rush to become qualified later on. Rework mistakes. Most people believe that Richard Wagner became a world-famous composer because he was gifted. True, he liked theatre, art, and music, but he disliked being on stage, could draw nothing more complex than stick figures, and was a slow learner on the piano. But lack of talent was overcome by great determination. When he dreamed of becoming a composer at the age of 15, he headed for the library, checked out on a book on the subject, and memorized it. To train his ear, he asked a violinist from the Leipzig Orchestra to teach him about chords and keys, learning the technique of every orchestral instrument but the harp. He studied the works of successful composers, including Beethoven, to understand how to capture a sound. Still, Wagner's early compositions were terrible. His first audience couldn't stop laughing. Embarrassed, the 17-year-old sneaked out of the theatre. To see what he had been doing wrong, Wagner sought the opinion of a local church musician. He was told to get a better understanding of the basics before setting out to try something new. He began to go over the works of Bach and Mozart line by line until he could construct a lyrical phrase. Given a second chance, the audience liked his work and his career was on its way. Open to ideas from anywhere, Wagner once sat at a piano to write some music after lunch. Downstairs, a neighbor began to hammer on a sheet of tin, creating a terrible clamor. Instead of stopping or leaving, he concentrated on the noise and began to make his music blend with the racket. That piece became part of a major scene in Wagner's famous opera, Siegfried. Bill Russell, whom many believe was the best defensive basketball player of all time, has said, He found many games to be so absorbing and intense that it made no difference to him who won or lost. He was consumed by trying to play his best. Philip Knight, the founder of Nike, is convinced that the work needed to grow his business was far more rewarding than running a big company day to day. So he turned that job over to someone else. Bill Gates and Donald Dell did the same. Steve Jobs waited too late at Apple Computer, was ousted by shareholders, but returned later determined to take the company to new heights. And he did. Look for a better way. One of the worst mistakes leaders make is to assume people are interchangeable and indistinguishable. We should expand our talents and abilities by becoming cross-trained in some instances, but should not be put in a position which does not leverage our best talents and potential. Chester Carlson used the pain from arthritis in his hands to motivate him to develop a machine which Fortune magazine once called the most successful product in history. Yes. Responsibility came early to young Chester. By age 14, he needed to work to support his invalid parents. His mother passed away when he was 17, and his father when he was 24. The early setbacks made him more determined. He put himself through Caltech, got a physics degree, and was turned down by 82 firms before being hired by Bell Labs in New York. Laid off in 1933, he soon began experimenting with his ideas in the kitchen of his small apartment. In 1934, Carlson's job was to make copies of drawings by hand. The pain got worse, and he began to work on ways to replace carbon paper and mimeographs. Finally, in October 1938, Carlson and an associate, Otto Corney, gave birth to the first office copier. His invention was turned down by 20 companies, including General Electric, RCA, and IBM, before being purchased in 1946 by Haloid, which added Xerox to its name in 1958. Lesson: hoping and wishing are never enough. Change and improvement come only when determination sparks action. The only disability in life is a bad attitude, by Scott Hamilton.